New tonight on KGW News, followed by a flasher while driving down the interstate.
I was in my car in the left lane on the freeway going 70, and I couldn't get away.
Why it appears this suspect has been doing the same thing for years. Then,
we are in agony. It is unbearable.
What Savannah Guthrie is asking for in her first interview since her mother disappeared. Plus, how a Washington soldier helped save a life mid-flight in hours from any airport.
His vitals were all over the place. They were not normal.
And PCC reaches a tentative agreement with one of the two striking unions.
Though not before spring classes were pushed back.
For me and my fellow students, we're livid at this point.
And later, a vote of confidence for a new Trailblazers owner.
I see no reason why he won't be successful in Portland.
With Seattle more than ready, it seems, for their own NBA return. But first to our top story, what appears to be the return of a man dubbed the I-5 Flasher. Over a decade later and hundreds of miles south, apparently up to his lewd behavior, authorities say, all over again. Catherine Cook spoke with a woman tonight, and Catherine, at the risk of stating the obvious here, the details here are not appropriate for all viewers.
That's correct, David. But the woman we talked with believes it's critical to share her account, given the suspect is out on bail and his record of indecent exposure convictions spans several states. She wants him to be held accountable again.
I was just in shock.
Katrina Newberry is still processing what happened on her way to work last week. While heading south on I-5 near Woodburn, she says the guy driving next to her was watching porn on a tablet.
And so then I looked, and he had rolled down his window and was pleasuring himself.
While looking at you?
While staring at me.
Hoping to escape, Katrina says she sped up, but he followed. She slowed down, but he did the same.
In that moment, I was trapped. I was in my car in the left lane on the freeway going 70, and I couldn't get away.
Finally, Katrina says the guy exited at Woodburn. She called police. OSP tracked down and arrested 59-year-old Charles Porter. He's charged with indecent exposure. The Washington State Department of Corrections shared this photo with us. A spokesperson tells us Porter was convicted of indecent exposure in Washington about 15 years ago. At the time, the Daily Herald out of Everett interviewed several victims who called Porter the I-5 Flasher. They said he nearly caused them to crash while he was masturbating behind the wheel and trying to get their attention.
I was just like, man, how many other people could there be that haven't said something? What he did has true impacts, whether, he thinks so or not.
Our thanks to Katrina for sharing her story with us tonight. Court records also show Porter was charged with indecent exposure involving a child in Texas in 2001. He's due back in Marion County Court tomorrow morning. David.
Yeah, some cases just leave you shaking your head. Thanks, Catherine.
What mom ever thinks she will have to bury one of her children at such a young age?
Powerful testimony in a Clackamas County courtroom today as a mother explains the heartbreak of her daughter's murder. A judge ruling that Kaylee Snow's killer will spend the next 3 decades in prison. In March of 2024, Bobby Alsup was renting a room at Snow's home on Southeast Flavel. That's when prosecutors say he beat her to death with a hammer, hid her body in a shed on the property, then returned a few days later and attempted to burn that shed down. Prosecutors presented security video, DNA evidence, and cell phone records in court linking Alsup, they say, to Snow's death. Even at sentencing, he said he was not responsible. Snow's family says he took advantage of her generosity.
Whether you want to hear this or not, I wasn't involved in her death at all.
She tried to help you too. But instead of being thankful or appreciative or anything like that, you beat her over the head with a hammer and you set her on fire.
Alsup's attorney says he plans to appeal. New at 11, Portland Community College has reached a tentative deal with one of the unions striking on campus, though bargaining still continues with a second union. Well, now that union is calling for the governor to intervene, with the strike now also pushing back spring classes. Alma McCarty has the latest.
Wednesday night, PCC's Cascade campus stays quiet as one strike heads toward an end.
I'm proud of my colleagues. We managed to pull off a very historic strike, the first strike at a community college in Oregon's history.
Jeff Grider with the Federation of Classified Workers calls the tentative agreement reached with administration a success, following marathon mediation sessions and 2 weeks on the picket lines.
It's about a lot more than just the numbers, the COLA that we received. It's about our dignity and respect and fairness.
The agreement includes a 5% cost of living adjustment that kicks in on July 1st, a more than $1,300 ratification bonus, and some enhanced worker protections. Members now get to vote on the deal.
Those folks have to take a look at that tentative agreement and decide whether they think it's good enough.
The Federation of Faculty and Academic Professionals, however, hasn't reached a deal, saying right now the largest sticking point in negotiations is a return-to-work agreement that includes pay for the time they were on strike. PCC leadership said they feel a deal is very close, but as a publicly funded school, they said they won't spend taxpayer dollars on restorative pay for striking workers. Union leaders are calling on Governor Kotek to intervene so the college can settle a fair contract. PCC said classified employees can return to work as soon as Friday and into the weekend. Whether or not they reach a deal with the other unions soon, spring term will still be pushed back.
It's very frustrating, to say the least.
Hayden Dial is a student at PCC who's been out on the picket lines supporting his professors, though he'd like to be back in the classroom and believes the college is prolonging the strike.
And as a student, it means that, we're not receiving our grades on time. And for me, I'm one of the lucky ones, right? People with financial aid, people who are international students, for example, they're the ones who are really suffering during this time.
Most classes will start back on April 6th, a week later than scheduled. PCC says some winter coursework and finals may happen next week. In North Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now. The Ninth Circuit has temporarily paused court-ordered restrictions on the use of crowd control munitions outside Portland's ICE building. The Trump administration is appealing 2 lower court rulings that essentially said federal agents used excessive force and placed limits on how and when authorities could deploy tear gas, among other things. This decision buys the court time to decide whether to grant the government's request for a longer pause while it appeals the case. Portland police have released the sketch of a sexual assault suspect. Authorities say the suspect picked up a teenager on November 1st near the Eastport Plaza on Southeast 82nd, then drove them to the East Columbia neighborhood and sexually assaulted them. The victim escaped and called for help. The car in question appears to be an older model silver van, authorities say, with a cracked windshield and messy interior. Anyone with information here should call Portland Police. And in Tigard, several teenagers are in custody accused of stealing a car and running from police. Officers say what is notable is that one of those teens tried to hide out on the roof of a business, and authorities say they used thermal imaging from a drone to track that teen down. Police say this all started very early this morning when the teen stole an unoccupied car from a gas station. A couple of them were identified as missing runaways from a rehabilitation home. Let's take you outside now on this Wednesday night. Taking a look as the spring showers clear out and what appears to be much drier conditions tonight in the Rose City. Celine Stevens is here with a first look at your forecast as we head toward our weekend. Celine.
David, that's right. You know what? We're going to have a really nice stretch of few days, okay? Sunshine and warmer temperatures is going to be great, but if you step outside right now, it's definitely cooled down quite a bit. It's 43 degrees outside right now. Winds are nice and calm. So the shower activity we saw earlier today was very brief, and as you'll see, it's all moved out of our region by now. It's moved out around 5 o'clock this evening, and so it's moved over the Cascades, and right now even that's starting to die down. As you can see in the last few hours, around 8 o'clock this evening, things started to calm down there as well, but Timberline's still dealing with a little bit of precipitation, but again, not too much. We're really going to be seeing things improve in the days to come, but looking at our temperatures across our map, 41 in Troutdale and McMinnville, we're seeing upper 30s in places like Hillsborough, so it's going to be a cold night. Along the coast, we're looking at more 40s and mid 30s in places like New Newport right now, but temperatures definitely, again, cooler than this time yesterday here in Portland, 7 degrees cooler, 8 in Salem. But I will tell you, things are going to start warming up as soon as Friday. We'll talk more about it in a bit.
Oh, looking forward to that. Thanks, Celine.
So I am excited that we are one step closer for that.
Well, even Portland fans are thrilled about the prospect of the NBA making its return to Seattle after a nearly 2-decade hiatus. And all that chatter about the Sonics far from the only big news out of the NBA. Orlando Sanchez is here and talk about everything essentially happening at the same time, right?
Right, David? What an eventful day on and off the court in the association. Following its Board of Governors meeting, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver addressed the media, answering questions on a variety of topics. So let's start in Rip City and the sale of the Portland Trail Blazers. The commissioner expects a vote to approve the sale soon. Billionaire Tom Dundon and his ownership group were interviewed yesterday in New York by league owners, all part of the process for Dundon to take ownership of the Blazers from the Paul Allen estate.
Enormous passion and spirit. He wants to be successful. He wants to be successful both as a businessman in Portland. He wants to be successful with the team on the floor. I also had an opportunity yesterday to meet the rest of his group, the rest of his ownership group. Similarly, you have some very successful people who are coming here. So I see no reason why he won't be successful in Portland.
Silver recently visited the Moda Center and says he's a big fan of the Portland market and mentioned the support and enthusiasm for the long-term future of the team in Portland. The league also announcing today it's exploring expansion in Seattle and Las Vegas, a big step towards the NBA's return to the Emerald City. Silver reiterated expansion is not guaranteed. He did encourage potential owners to reach out. One positive for Northwest fans, ESPN reporting league owners voted unanimously in favor of exploring expansion in Vegas and Seattle. While it won't be a factor in the decision, Silver did say he loves having a Northwest rivalry with Seattle and Portland. The commissioner expects a decision later this year. A vote would likely happen in July when the Board of Governors meet again. So stay tuned.
Looks
David?
good, and we'll see you in sports to do it all again with some more basketball news.
On the court.